Imagine working to get food for your family and not coming back. This is not a scene from a movie. This is the reality of many Nigerian families who lost their loved ones in stampedes while they were trying to get food aid. In just 1 week, across different locations in Nigeria, what should have been acts of charity turned out to be sins of deadly chaos. Stampedes at food distribution centers have become tragically common in Nigeria, and the root cause might shock you. It's a data problem. In this video, we are going to dive into how a missing spreadsheet is literally costing lives in Nigeria today. This is Discourse, and I'm Azubike. Let me paint you a picture. Africa's largest economy is facing a severe cost of living crisis today. People leave their families in desperation, but instead of returning home with food, their families are informed about them becoming casualties at a charity event. Now, if you have a family where a breadwinner engages in such an act and then gets unfortunately trampled upon by other desperate people from other desperate families, you can imagine that the situation of his family members will go from bad to much worse. What is even most heartbreaking is the fact that most of the casualties were women and children. In Oyo State, in Abuja, and in Okija, citizens gathered in their thousands, hoping to receive food aid. But instead of getting help, some families got informed about funerals instead. When you look at these events, you can argue that they were organized by individuals and charity organizations rather than government. But the fact is that the format that these events took was mirroring the format that government events also take. Charity organizations and individuals are stepping in to help their fellow citizens the best way they know how. And in that situation, the only person or the only group that they could emulate was their government. If there was a better way for these people to organize their events and share these food items to the people that really need them, I'm sure none of the organizers would want to have stampedes happen in their events. When people gather in hundreds, even in thousands, because somebody asked them to come for free food items, the staff that you have might not be ready for the crowd that is going to show up. We do not have ways to identify who are Nigeria's most vulnerable citizens. Different governments have created different social service platforms and social service programs. They all lack one thing. They have their structures in place, but they don't have a way of directly connecting to those that need those services. They also don't have a way of being able to identify people that are in need of help. So what happens is they load up bags of rice and then they begin to distribute. The federal government says, well, we'll distribute them to states. They distribute to state governments. The state government distributes to local governments. From the local governments, they might say, oh, you have to come to a particular location to receive it. So you have to actually move to somewhere and join a queue or get into a situation that could easily result in a stampede to get a chance of collecting whatever it is they want to give to you. Nigeria lacks a system in which they can look and say, these are the people that earn below a certain amount of money that require extra help. Countries like the United States and the United Kingdom seem to have figured this out many years ago. During COVID, UK had this furlough scheme where people who were out of work were supported by their employers and the government, and they were able to go through that period. Later, they had cost of living crisis. They capped bus fares and subsidized energy bills, or they paid energy companies specific amount credited to customers' accounts. Even in India, with its massive population, they've still managed to create a comprehensive citizens database. It took them about 5 years, but they did it. And it's working today. Now, if you remember from recent memory in our current government, we had this Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Beta Edu. You can remember the corruption that happened in that system that our president managed to nip in the bud early. And then they discovered that our predecessor did exactly the same thing, or even worse. The reason why these avenues are created for officials that are saddled with the responsibility of distribution of certain items to vulnerable individuals end up diverting those items or taking that money for themselves is because they find it very difficult to connect directly to individuals who are entitled to these benefits. So if they give you items to deliver to Mr. Nobody, and you get in the middle of the road and you can't even identify the people who these items are meant for. Some of the people that occupy these political offices fall short of the conscience part of things. So they use it to make money for themselves. Without the basic infrastructure, every attempt at aid distribution is a potentially deadly free-for-all. So what's the way forward? One major change we can make now is to accelerate our national identity program. It's when things like this kind of stampedes begin to happen. It's when corruption scandals come up. You begin to realize we have a real crisis on our hands, an identity crisis, a difficulty for government to reach its most vulnerable citizens because it has not built the infrastructure to aid it do so. The National Identity Program is a program that can be used to interact directly to Nigeria's citizens. Government can look inside the database and determine who earns below 20,000, who qualifies for a particular government support, who is in agriculture business, who is in trading business, who is a civil servant. They will be able to determine the people who qualify for certain kinds of government aid. But we've had this program now running for years, and it's beginning to look like it's just one other identity card you can use to go to the supermarket, or you can show a policeman when they ask you to show your ID, or you can use it to do banking transactions. Our national identity program can do much more for us than what we're looking at it as now. A lot of people have found it difficult to enroll, especially people in rural areas. Some other people have developed a high level of distrust for the entire program. Some people even believe that government is going to sell their data. So when you look at it in that sense, there is an issue of lack of access, and then there's an issue of mistrust. If we find a way to capture as many citizens as possible within the shortest possible time, we can do it at community level, we can do it at ward level, we also already have the political structure to manage it. Then for the citizens, we have a responsibility to provide accurate data. Some people would think, oh, they just want us to do it. Well, I'll give them something that I know they can't use to trace me. If they can't trace you when you do something wrong, what if they need to trace you to help you? When they need to trace you to help you, that's when you realize that you've done yourself a disservice. If you provide information that is inaccurate, and then you qualify for some kind of benefit and government can't find you, then you won't blame them for not being able to locate you. So we have a problem of people not having access to be enrolled on the portal, and we also have a problem of people not trusting the system enough to give them accurate information. There's a need for us to continue to build this national identity system. We can build a robust social service scheme off of that. Government can look and identify the most vulnerable in our society. We won't hear the most vulnerable just on television and radio the way we used to hear. Most Nigerians today have bank accounts. We have a lot of microfinance banks in Nigeria, even in rural areas. We have a lot of financial technology companies. Payment in Nigeria has become easier than ever. If you send them the money, they might not need a bag of rice. They might need shoes for their children. We also have a high rate of penetration for internet usage and mobile phone usage in Nigeria. We can leverage on that to reach out to our citizens better. We can use our local government structures. We have communities, wards, local government, states. We can use these structures not just for distribution, but for collation of data. We can have National Identity Commission, have office in every community and capture people in Nigeria. Nigeria has enough money to pay for it. Nigeria has enough money to pay for capturing machines that can go to every community in this country. We have 700 and something local governments. So if within one local government they have 50 communities, multiply that, Nigeria has the resources to get enough machines to go to every community and capture people and do their data capture, build the database within 3 to 4 years. So we need to accelerate the building of our national citizens database. Finally, there needs to be proper awareness. Government agencies who are charged with creating awareness need to continuously harp on the importance of getting enrolled in our national identity program. Did you notice that they actually had to force people to do it? We're going to close your bank account. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Because people were just apprehensive. For a lot of people that got their NIN today, it's because they wanted to renew their international passports. It's because they wanted to open new bank accounts. It's because they wanted to continue to run their existing bank accounts. They didn't do it voluntarily. They did it because they became compelled to do it, and it's not supposed to be like that. If people understand the advantages that this system presents for Nigeria, you don't need to force anybody to enroll in the National Identity Program. So a lot of awareness needs to be created for this program. One thing we can do is to tell people that we know about what is going on. If you're finding value in this video so far, please give me a like. Drop your opinions in the comments. Share this video to your friends and your loved ones. And please consider subscribing to this channel, because that's really going to help us. We're not just talking about a missing database of failed systems. We're talking about mothers that went out, fathers that went out to try to better the lot of their families, never came back to see their children, never came back to say how the day went, who have become news headlines and statistics instead of to be breadwinners for their families. In 2024, in Africa's largest economy, we're losing our lives over something as basic as food distribution. This is highly unacceptable. It shouldn't take death for us to realize that a working database is not just about numbers and spreadsheets. It's about saving lives and improving them. This has been a hard but necessary conversation for us today. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, and to share this video. Let's keep the discussion going in the comments below, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video.